Welcome back to our Aligned Allies series that we are doing in prep for our Black Women Raise Capital event because we want you guys to be prepared for what's to come. And so I am back with Ashley, the co-founder of LNDRs and FRND. And today we are really going to be talking about how you actually get prepped for getting private money. We're going to really be diving into the process, what that process looks like, what you may be missing, and as well as just some of the hurdles that you may come across that you want to go ahead and kind of prepare for ahead of time. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Ashley, I want you to still go ahead, introduce yourself for people if this is your first time catching this video. We have done 2 previous videos that we would love for you guys to go back and watch. But Ashley, go ahead, take it away, introduce yourself and what you do.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. My name is Ashley Edwards, and I am a private money lender, but also a private money lending educator. And I am a full-time corporate attorney. So excited to be here, excited to share my perspective and tips on how to work with private money lenders because I've seen a
Yes.
lot of things. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yes, yes. Okay. So love it. Yes. Love, 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 love. Okay. So the thing is, I think that there are a lot of misconceptions around private money lenders, what that looks like. And then I think there are a lot of things that keep people stuck from moving forward because they can be very intimidated by the process or the term. I know something that I see with a lot of people is they automatically assume, just like with a bank, that credit scores are like very major, or that even they have to more so be in a certain tax bracket, or already have a lot of different knowledge acquired. And I know for me, actually, private money lending was a little bit more of an entry point for when I was starting and didn't have some of those things, but I did have a great deal. I may not have had like as much experience, but with that, I had a property or an asset where the numbers really made sense. And I had like a solid credit history that would allow me to be able to really kind of get into relationship with the lenders, which is another big thing of just having that relationship with the right person. So I would love for you to go ahead and tell us really what is a private money lender and what that looks like.
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot of people causing confusion, in my opinion. And they're confusing people on the difference between private money and hard money.
Mm,
And there's not like a dictionary definition out there. Okay, I'm just going to tell you what I think it is just based on my experience and my intuition, right? So,
hmm
a private money lender is literally providing funds directly to the investor or the business owner, and those funds belong to that person or that person's
Yeah.
entity, right? So, me as a private money lender, I am loaning out my own money, right? Whether it's in my retirement account, in my business account, on my credit line, whatever it is, right? It's my money. And
hmm
so it's very relationship based in that sense. Whereas with hard money, typically these are your people who are pulling other people's money together, creating a fund, or they're doing loans from like a warehouse line of credit or something like that. But
hmm
it's not usually their money, right? They didn't raise all
Yeah.
this capital on their own typically. Right. It's
Yeah.
not usually the person you're talking to when you're talking to a hard money lender, like they're less invested because it's not their money, right? So it's a
Yeah.
different kind of approach.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's totally different. So, like when
I
you're
know.
approaching a private money lender, it's very relationship based, right? Because first of all, I don't know you, and it's my money, right? So that's
Yes.
important. That's
Yes.
important. Yeah, if I was loaning out somebody else's money, it would matter less that I don't know you, right? And I think
Yeah.
people miss that,
Yeah.
right? They just think there is money available, but they're not thinking about the source of those funds or why that matters in terms of how you approach the person. But essentially, that's the difference. Private money lenders are loaning out their own funds, funds that they fully
Yeah.
control and can make full decisions about on their own. They don't have to ask nobody, they don't have to get a board vote, none of that, right? Whereas
Yeah.
with hard money lenders, typically they're lending from a fund, money that's not fully controlled by them.
Right. Okay. Yes, that's really good. And I do think that there can be a lot of a mix up in hard money and private money. I think that I definitely had already always understood that like private money was kind of like, okay, so if I have a relationship with this person, it makes it a little bit easier because with hard money, they are still going off of like a checklist, right? I've done hard money before, and typically you're going to get high interest rates, like much higher interest rates. And then there is still a checklist because, like you said, they are lending off of like someone else's money to a sense. And so whoever the someone else is, they have rules and regulations that they kind of want them to follow. Whereas it is with private money, it's a lot different. It's you are getting to decide and pick and choose what you want to lend on. So now I think let's get into it a little bit of that, of like how you decide, how most private money lenders really decide what they want to, lend on. What are some key things that you look at versus what maybe a hard money lender might look for and things?
Yeah, that's a good one. So, this is actually one of the friction points that comes up, right? I will get somebody that DMs me saying, "Hey, I'm doing a project in Hawaii. Can you fund it?" And it's like, well, first of all, I don't do loans in
Hawaii.
Hawaii, you know? And so I think with hard money lenders, they have usually more flexibility
Hmm.
across the country with what they can do, right?
Hmm.
They have more licenses and things like that. Usually with private money lenders, we are limited to a certain geographic region unless we've grown our business to be, like I said, a fund or something like that. But
Okay.
typically we're loaning in one or two, sometimes three states, and only
Hmm.
on specific types of projects. At least that's how I teach my lenders. Like, don't try to do
Okay.
everything. Stick to certain regions because every state has different laws and requirements for you to be
Yeah.
loaning money in those states. And so it's too much to try to be in all 50 states. And so
Mm.
when someone comes to me, the very first thing is going to be relationship, right? I'm not going to do a loan with a stranger, like someone
Hmm.
that I've never talked to before. It's just not going to
Right.
happen. Whereas with hard money, they don't care. They don't need to know you, right?
Yeah, because they're
It's
gonna, yeah.
it's somebody
They-
else's money. They don't care, and somebody else's
yeah.
money. And so, not to say that like private money lenders don't have requirements and things like that. Like I definitely have my own criteria that I've set for myself. Like
Right.
I have my loan box, right? Like I will lend in these two states for now on these three types of deals. And I have my checklist and my underwriting process, but I am very flexible with that. I can decide based on any change in circumstances or fact that in that moment I want to change it. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
it's a bit more flexible in that sense. I also have more flexibility in how I negotiate, right? Because I don't have investors to answer to. Like I
Yeah.
am the primary and the secondary market for my private loans, right? It's
Yes.
all me.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's the
Yeah.
relationship first, but it's also understanding what that private lender's loan box and geographic area is, right? Like, do you even lend in my
Mhm.
state? I feel like that should be the very first question. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, because there's
Yeah.
50 states.
So now when you say there are different like rules around lending in these different states, because you guys actually also with lenders and friends, it's not only a community to connect you with other private money lenders, but she also teaches how to get into private money lending, how to become the bank, because that is another way of building wealth and Honestly, financial services is number one. And I think people think of just life insurance, but no, you make money off of selling money. So that is what it really what it really boils down to. So, but I had never thought about that of the different rules and laws. So what are some things that you share with like students? Like if a person is kind of like, well, I've got a 401k, I want to lend and things like that. How would they understand? What are some key things you think that they would need to understand about maybe a few states before they like decide what that box is going to be? Like for me as an investor, it's what's your buy box or what my buy box is. But I guess you guys, it's like what's your lending box? So what are some of the major like rules or key things you think people kind of miss before
Yeah.
going into that?
Yeah, I think new students usually want to do loans in the state that they live in. So
Yeah.
this can be a challenge because some states require you to be licensed to do loans in that state. And so where I live is a great example. I live in California and I cannot loan here without a license. I just cannot. So
Really?
yeah,
Even
no,
as
I
a
cannot.
private money lender, you can't loan. Wow.
Nope, you
Different
cannot
from
loan here.
Texas.
Different from
Because,
Texas. Yeah,
yeah, see, I
exactly.
never knew that. Okay, that's good. Look.
Yeah. See, so I'll go to, like, I was at a vending event last month, and several people came up to me and was like, yeah, I'm doing fix and flips in California. I'm looking for funding. Like, how can I apply for funding with you? And I was like, congratulations, that's great. I don't do loans in California. And they were like, what? But you live here. And I'm like, yeah, and I don't have a license to do private loans here. So I don't loan here. And they
Mm.
were like, what? And I was like, yeah, every state is different in their requirements for licensing. Every state is different in their interest rate caps. What's the most interest you can
Yeah.
charge a borrower? Every
Yeah.
state is different in terms of their foreclosure laws.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
even what can be secured, like some states say if it's a business purpose loan, you cannot secure it with their primary residence. Other states say that's y'all
Yeah.
business, you know?
Yes.
So, yeah, so that's one of the biggest challenges. New students will be like, I live in California, so I want to do private loans to California people. And I'm like, you can. I'm not going to tell you you can't, but you need to go get a license to do that. And if you want to go through that
Really?
process, and sometimes the licensing requirements can be very strict. So, for instance, like in Arizona,
Yeah.
not only do you have to have a physical presence there, but my understanding is that you have to have a physical office location and a certain number of employees and a certain net worth. And it's all, it's very interesting. But yeah,
Wow. Even
some
at, like
states,
as a private lender to be able to lend out there. Yeah.
yeah. So every state
Wow.
is different.
Okay, so that is good. Okay, you guys. So now, as we're continuing this conversation on really getting prepped for the pre approval, I want to kind of dive in because I know you and I both are in the real estate world, but you mentioned one, and that is the business purpose loans, which I have just been getting more and more people that ask me about that, or they ask me about like you and like wanting to, which I know you're more real estate focused, but I know you have those connections of people, business purpose loans.
Mhm.
So, what is the difference between even from a borrower standpoint and from someone who would be wanting to lend on a business purpose loan versus if you're going into like a real estate transaction? Like, what are the key things that you are now kind of looking for, and how does the rules even change with that?
Yeah. So sometimes there's overlap. So sometimes you can request a business purpose loan that is for a real estate investment. So there is that overlap. And there's also times where it doesn't overlap. So if the loan is going to be related to a real estate project, so, a fix and flip, a buy and hold, um, a syndication, and it's going to be secured by real estate, I would consider that a
Mm.
real estate loan.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it can be secured by real estate. So
Yeah,
that's
it can
good
be
to know.
secured by
Yeah.
real estate. And then with a business purpose loan, you can have a business purpose loan that's not for a real estate project, but it's also secured by real estate. But a business purpose loan might be something like a fashion designer needs a loan so they can buy their fabric in bulk for their fall collection, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they have an investment property or real estate or something that it can be secured against, or maybe they don't. Maybe they have industrial business equipment that the loan can be secured against, right? So it doesn't always have to be real estate. I've had people and lenders and friends do loans to like a bakery, right? And so
Oh,
it can be secured by the equipment in their bakery, which is essential to their business, right? So they want to pay that loan so they don't lose that equipment. Or it
yeah.
can be, I've done loans to contractors. So, like
Uh,
restoration companies or general contractors who have expensive equipment, who need that equipment to operate their business, but they may be on a certain draw schedule with their client or, with the insurance company. And so they need the funds to start the project, or maybe they have 10 projects going and they just don't have the liquidity
mm,
to fund all of them. So you can secure
yeah.
those loans against their equipment. Those are business purpose, but you can also secure those against their real estate assets if they have them. So it's really like the use of the loan, right? If the
Hmm.
use is for a real estate project, I would consider that a real estate loan. If it's for
Okay.
a business project that's not real estate, I would say that's a business purpose loan. But sometimes the business is real estate, right? So
Yeah,
both.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there can be so many different things. I know, like for me, I've done short term private money, which there's different terms. So like Pace Morby, he calls it like gator lending, right? Because I was a part of sub two community, and I've done the short term like for earnest money, right? So I needed because I had other projects I was in at the same time, and so that floating period to just get me like to the closing table, right? So one of the other things though that I think is such a perk with private money lenders is the speed. I personally like even dealing with hard money before, and what I notice is hard money actually too, there can be a lot of like red tape that you don't necessarily know until you start getting into things. So, like, you can't exit out of your loan early without being like penalized a certain amount of money. Or, and maybe initially that wasn't discussed. So, sometimes, like, I always tell people to go into it always making sure, like, hey, I'm not going to be penalized if I pay this off sooner. Um, because we want to like under promise but over deliver. And so those are some things. But with private money lending, it's very quick. The process is extremely fast, which I think is really important in the market because speed is everything a lot of times. But I would love for you to share your perspective on it and how even getting pre-approved with your private lender, it can they can speed that process up by doing that.
Yeah, the best way to speed up the
Mhm.
process is to already have a relationship. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not even gonna hold you, but
See, I told y'all.
I'm telling, look, I've had people DM me like, hey, I heard you're a private money lender. I need a loan next week. It's when we're closing. I'm like, I just met you. I didn't even really meet you because you DM'd me on Instagram. Um, but like, I don't know you, and now you're telling me that you need my funds by next week. Like,
Yeah.
it's not gonna happen. Like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
refer you to somebody else, and somebody may be willing to do it, but
Yeah.
it's not gonna be me. But that's the thing. It has to be the
Yeah.
relationship, or at least some kind of, like, if you had an introduction, a coffee date, if you talked one time, you've
Yes.
done more than a lot of people. Okay, like,
Yes.
yeah, like just a conversation, even just teaching people about your business. And that's why,
Mhm.
and lenders and friends will do like investor spotlights, right? So the
Mhm.
investor can present to the community and showcase their work, and people can
Mhm.
ask them questions. So when they do request funds, it's not the person's first time hearing about
You
them,
ever
right?
seen them? Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yes.
think the best thing you can do to speed up the process is to network beforehand, right? Start getting to know people, share about
Yeah.
your business, share about your goals, figure out what their lending box actually is before you get to the point where you need funds. And I've heard you say many times like you should be raising capital before you need the capital. And
Yeah.
I think that's part of the relationship process, right? You should be
Yeah.
cultivating these relationships before you need people. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that is actually the biggest mistake that a lot of people make. And it's even people that like I've worked with or get, and I it's like I don't really know how else to explain it. It's like a lot of times people are like, "Well, how did you find this?" or "How do you know that?" And I'm like, "Dude, it's literally like one of those things where you just have to be curious about people and building that relationship and being at the right places and getting in the rooms, right? That's even why for this event, I wanted to have the private money lender lounge because I want people to be able to go in there, not you're just flat out asking, right, for money right away, but so that you can like have time to build connection and rapport with that person because, yeah, they care about your deal, but they also want to understand who you are, right? And I think that was something that I even recognized when raising capital. And it kind of like took me back at first. I didn't really realize it was a superpower, but people were like, "Oh, like I like that you're excited about this. Like I like that you have a vision or a goal for this." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, so this could actually help me to get the capital that I need to move just by me like showing up and sharing or talking about what I'm doing, who I am." And I think that sometimes we are so used to the traditional bank process that we're like, "Oh, let me just fill out a paper and like let this computer grade it and like you're giving me a yes or no." And it's like,
Mhm.
no, right? It's, yeah, banks are a little bit more, it's a little bit harsher or maybe a little bit more hard to beat because it is just like an AI system or whatever that's going to just flat out tell you yes or no. But the convenience and the perks of being able to go a private money route if you're struggling maybe in
Mhm.
different areas that a bank wouldn't approve, you got to do the work of you can at least like
Yeah.
introduce yourself, like have a conversation, show up. Like I think that that is the legwork piece that people don't understand is really, really required.
Yeah, and it's not that you have to be an extrovert, right? Because this comes up in my
Yes.
accelerator all the time. People are like, "Oh, but I'm not like extroverted or I'm not good at networking or I'm awkward or
Yeah.
whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, I hear you, but like there's a way to be cordial and friendly and get to know people without being awkward." Um, there there are that's a skill. It's something you
Yeah.
can learn. And I have to be like, look, I'm not an extrovert either, but there's
Mhm.
definitely a way to do this. And so I share, how I network as an introvert and how I make it work for me. But it's it's not about being outgoing or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
about being strategic and, like you said, having a curious mindset and being interested in people because it's
Yeah.
a people business, right? And one time someone was like, "Well, why would I work with a private lender when I can just go to hard money and I don't have to build a relationship?" I was like, "That is a great question. No one's asking you to work with a private lender. Like I'm not
Yeah.
begging you to take my money. Like you
Right.
can you can go to a hard money lender all day. In fact, I prefer it, okay? I prefer that you go over there, okay?"
Listen, oh my gosh. And it's so hilarious because it's like, I always say this though as well. When you asking anybody for some money, listen, and it's not your money. Like, even with my kids, it's like there's this understanding that you're attached to that person in like some form, right? I love Gary Vaynerchuk, one of my favorite. Like, I just love his perspective on things. He's very big on accountability, and one thing that he talks about is like he always tells kids, like, or college students when they're like complaining about like, "Oh, well, my parents want me to do this or that," and he's like, "Are you on payroll?" Like, because when you are on someone's dime, like you
Yeah.
owe explanation. And I even see that a lot as with even just from a raising capital standpoint, right? Whether I'm getting it from private money, whether it's an investor's money, right? But even if I'm not getting that, maybe if I'm utilizing it from the bank, but I've got a team, that still matters. Like I still have to check in and share those updates and share these things. And I think you really just have to ask yourself, if I am not ready to be constantly trying to, give answer to people or share the updates and all the things, if that's not going to be something that you want to do that extra legwork and, like you said, learn that skill, then it may not be that the right route for you. And you may
Right.
want to go through something that is a little bit more, transactional as well. But
Hmm.
I mean, just like with hard money, it's still gonna have its things that you're gonna have to commit to and make sure that you do for them as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and it may just be that that lender is not for you too, right? Because
Yep.
every private lender is very different. Like I prefer
Hmm.
not to have check-ins throughout a project. I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
if you want, you could text me or email me some updates, but I don't really need, unless it's an emergency or like something that is like a need to know, I'm good. Like,
Yes.
please don't call me. I just, when the payment is due, I just want to see the payment come through. Like, that's pretty much
Right.
it.
I
Okay.
love it. Yes.
But I also have lenders who are like, no, I want weekly updates, and they can be very anxious. And so it just, you have to get to
Hmm.
know the person that you're working with, and that's why it's very relationship based, right? When you're in those initial conversations, you can get an understanding of the expectation and how you will communicate with each other, how you will work together. And I try to be clear with my borrowers, like, please don't call me because I'm probably not going to answer. Like I'm horrible at answering the phone. Like, if you leave me a
Yes.
voicemail, it's gonna take me probably a week to listen to it and get back to you. Like,
That's me.
you should probably text me. Like, like I
That's
don't.
yes. And that is something too that I want to say, because I actually am going to do a live and talk about this, but that's all I learned the hard way. My first raise that I ever did on, and it was as a fund to fund, right?
Mm,
And I probably picked one of the most bugaboo investors ever, and it really changed. I was like, oh, I'll never get this type of because
yeah.
I understand it's money, but I think too, as my confidence grew in what I was doing and what I knew that I could do, I got to the point of like, okay, dude, if you have such high anxiety about money, not saying that you need to be reckless, but I do really believe that sometimes you are going to run into investors and even lenders that are like, they're not saying it out loud, but they think they can get rich quick off of this. So they're always going to be like, and what happened? And what is it? And it's like,
Yeah.
this this is not a short like, so like you said, you're gonna want to like find out who is your fit. And even like it could be the same in a world of just even with business partners, anything like that, right? Like you're gonna want to find out who's that fit for you and why they are really in the business, and then also why you are actually really in the business and what you're doing. Because yeah, money is something that people can have like this fear of, and they think when you operate from an anxious place with it, it can make it so much worse.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes, what I've noticed, like with new lenders, sometimes it's that they haven't refined their process and that is creating that insecurity, or
Mm.
they loaned funds that they should not have loaned out. I've seen new lenders loan out money that was like, their emergency fund, as opposed to funds that don't have a purpose per se. And so I think some of that is part of it too, but I actually
Yeah.
started creating material. I made a mini course on how to do calm lending, because I was starting to see,
Love
I was
it.
like, some people are just very anxious in this space, and I think
Yeah.
that it's unwarranted. And so it's something I see all the time, but it's a matchmaking process, right? You have to find the right private lender for you. You have to make sure you're compatible, but that takes time. It's not, oh, I need funds tomorrow and we just met
Right.
on Facebook today. Like, that's not it. Yeah.
I love that.
Mm.
Okay, so now what do how do, from your perspective as a lender, how do you feel like people need to build relationships with private lenders, but also how should private lenders be building those relationships with the people that are looking for those private funds?
Yeah, so some people like being direct and other people don't. I prefer like if someone just tell me like, "Hey, I'm
Okay.
reaching out to you because I want to start getting to know each other and building a relationship so we can possibly work together one day."
Yeah.
I Nothing irks me more than a vague DM that's like, "Hey, we should have a collab call." And I'm like, "To collab on what?" Like to talk about what? Just tell me what you want. Like, if you're
Yeah.
looking for funds and you're trying to build that relationship, I prefer the person just tell me. But I know that there are people who, they prefer to have some interaction before somebody just come at them like that. So I don't have an easy answer for that
Yeah.
one. Like, you kind of just have to feel out the situation and, maybe just adopt that spirit of curiosity. So if you are,
Yeah.
since there's so many Instagram requests, I will say, if you're gonna approach somebody on Instagram, like, because that's a lot. If you're gonna approach somebody on Instagram, I would say start to interact with their content. That's a start, right? Maybe you can watch
Yes.
some of if they're posting about their fix and flips or, their investments, start to ask questions, comment, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
repost. If you are, and then eventually, you start to build that relationship, blah, 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 and it can go from
Mm-hmm.
there. If it's in person, so like let's say we're at Press for Press and you're like, oh, I think I might want to work with one of these lenders, then introduce yourself and let them know what you
Yeah.
do and start to get to know
Mm-hmm.
them, learn about their life, tell them about your life, your projects, and then there will be a time where that conversation naturally opens up and you can talk about what your eventual goal is. But for
Mm-hmm.
me personally, hiding the ball is like the most irritating thing. Like nothing will get you blocked faster than saying like some guy messaged me the other day that was like, hey, I like what you are posting and I think that, maybe we can work together and like do some collab. And I was like, but on what? Like
For
you
what?
gotta tell me
Yes.
more. You gotta tell me more because I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
What can we collab on? I don't know you. Like
Right.
I'm not.
And I think that that is a thing for me too. Like, I would say I actually, and still sometimes I kind of like struggle with it, but I think that two things. This is really important. This is why it's really important that you are not so big or caring about what people think about you or even their process, especially I think in business, because when I first started talking about like just really realizing one thing about me is figuring out strategy, like being strategic, and I got to a point where I was at events and then I was elevating and it's like, okay, well, it stops here. Right. And I'm like, but no, I don't like, I love you and I love your brunch or I love your thing, but like, I can't be at all of that. Like,
Yeah.
that don't align with what I'm doing. And
Hmm.
I can support you from afar. Like, but then I would even find myself like, still trying to like buy tickets to things for other people, right, to attend just because I'm like, okay, I can't be in the room, but I don't want this person to think that I don't support them now or all these different things. But it was like, girl, that's just not that's not your space anymore. That's not your
Yeah.
thing. And I think that we all have to be able to allow people to evolve, which is why I really even wanted to create this space. But also on top of that, I think that there is nothing wrong with being strategic. And there is a lot of controversy sometimes where it's like, oh, well, then you're not really trying to be genuine or build a real relationship. And to me, I'm like, honestly, I feel like you're more so wasting my time. Like if we're just aimlessly wandering around and it's like, no, what do you want? Like, what are we going to do? Because you want something anyway. It's like, you
Yeah.
might as well just like say that. So I think that's
Yeah.
important. But like you said, liking people's comments and being underneath their posts, commenting, interacting, showing up to certain events. That if it's private money events, like go to those. There are a lot of tax events that I like to attend to, especially around this time, because you're getting other people, like investors that are out there or people that are looking to do something with their money. And so I believe those are just really good things to do. But I believe that you can't actually get in the right rooms until you actually have mapped out what your long term plan is, which is you
Yeah,
being strategic, right?
I agree.
So, yeah, yes,
And half the
absolutely.
time, they don't even know what they want. Like they will, sometimes people will be direct about needing funding, but then it's looking real sketch because they don't seem to understand their own project. They don't
Yeah.
seem to have any timelines. Like if people could just communicate clearly and often, I think that would help a lot,
Mhm.
right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm planning to do some projects in the next 6 months, and I'd like to learn
Mhm.
more about what it is you do. More often than not, I'm probably gonna have a video or something to share with you um,
Yeah.
before we have some kind of call or something, because
Yeah.
trying to have a call with everybody is not sustainable. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, and not necessary.
Look, listen, don't call me.
It's not sustainable.
No, it's not.
So yeah, there's like a filtering process, but knowing what you want, understanding your own exit plan, your own backup plan, knowing your own numbers,
Mm-hmm.
not getting defensive about due diligence questions, like these are all things that are going to come up in the process anyway. You might as well just have an informational interview and or a
Yes.
coffee or whatever and see if it's a right fit, right? Just knock it
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I love, 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 love all of that. Yeah. I think that that is it's very important. And you mentioned something, your exit plan. And I see a lot of people even struggle with that. Like they either want me to help them raise capital, or they're like, well, I want to go out and raise capital. Or they're like, if any of your investors would be interested in this. And I'm like, okay, but what is the purpose of this? Like, when are you going to exit this out? Like, what have you done thus so far? What actually, like, what are the numbers? What do those numbers look like? Because investors are really going to want to know that. But then they also do too want to know that you're going to be consistently showing up and you're going to see this project through. So I think that that's like, it's so huge. So
Yeah.
love that. I completely agree as well. Yes. Okay. So now I think we have definitely shared a lot on this. What are just some last minute things that you kind of want to leave with everyone on tips when it comes to just like being ready, being prepared? Listen, y'all, what's something you really want to leave them with?
Let's see. So I think the main thing I want to leave them with is knowing your project and your goal and just clearly communicating that to the person. So don't be trying to be sneaky and act like you don't want something when you really do. Like
Yeah.
just say it, say what it is. I think it's okay to be explicit about wanting to build a relationship. It may feel awkward or
Yes.
uncomfortable to say, but that's just what it is. Like, I want to start getting to know you or whatever, so we can maybe work together in the future. I think that is okay to say. And if the person
Yeah.
is offended or whatever, maybe they're just not the right one, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, not everybody is a fit, and I think that's okay too, right? So I would just say, like, be transparent. That would be my takeaway. Um,
Okay.
and know your
Yes.
project and know your numbers.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Well, I love that. Okay, you guys. Well, I hope that y'all got a lot of value from this episode. We are going to be sharing on our next one about just like paperwork prep and for you to actually build out your portfolio. So, you guys make sure you turn on notifications. Make sure if you haven't, you get your tickets to the Black Women Raise Capital Live. This is where Black women are able to access capital and also get in the rooms with people like Ashley and other amazing people that are also going to be in the room helping you to really, really build wealth at the level that you desire. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and cannot wait to see you on the next one.